I might as well turn the recording on.
Because it would be really funny if the whole show was not recorded.
It would be funny in a sad, tragic sort of way.
Yeah, we've never done that before.
So welcome everybody to Corona Geek number 187. Today we've got a whole laundry list of things that we're going to talk about. And I was trying to think of a joke there, but never mind. Insert joke here. And there's a lot of great things happening in the community. Also, there are a lot of interesting things happening on in the industry. One of those is, of course, Android Instant Apps. This is something new that Google has announced. Also, they are talking about adding an early access section to the App Store. So we'll talk a little bit about that and maybe what it might mean. Renee, emailed me earlier and was going to maybe pop in and talk about LDoc. So if he doesn't get on with us today, we'll get him on with us at a later date because I don't know if you guys have seen the blog post that he did, but he's doing some really great stuff there with some amazing looking documentation. I'd really like to know how he's doing it. We've also got Ed Marina with us, who hopefully, Ed, may go through some of his updates on his product. I don't know.
Actually, Ed's not going to do any updates today. I'm sorry.
Okay, good. Ed's not doing any updates today.
Sorry, guys.
No worries. And then also we've got some things here we can talk about monetization plugins. I want to get your guys' feedback on this because there's a lot of options now. And I just want to hear what you guys have to say about what you're using, what you like, what you don't like, what you're interested in, that sort of thing. So we'll get to all of that in just a bit. So joining us today is Mike Hempling from cravecreative.com. Also Stephen Johnson from ibabastudios.com. We've got Lurg from spiralcodestudio.com. Ed Marina from roaminggamer.com. Jason Schroeder from jasonschroeder.com. And what's that?
Pace yourself.
I know. No, I'm really working hard here to remember all the names. We got Tony Godfrey from Shark Apps. And we've also got Terry
Hanging quietly.
Yeah, Terry Schuschler in stealth mode with no picture joining us today as well.
It just makes me wonder what people are doing when they get their camera. What are you doing back there with your camera?
Yeah. Well, you know. Hey, I'm loving this. We need one more person to jump on, and then we'll have all 9 tiles, and then from there, the tiles get even smaller. So eventually,
what's that show? The old 1970s Tic-Tac-Toe, whatever.
The full Brady Bunch, as it were.
Yeah. So I really like the way this Zoom is working out for us. So anyhow. Okay, so let's go back up to the top of the list here, what I was talking about earlier. So have you guys seen this Android Instant Apps? Oh,
Yes.
Oh, you have? What do you think about it?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, to be able to figure out what code is needed and then just load that code seems to really speed things up quite a bit. Also, it seems to work in conjunction with deep linking. So if you have somebody linking to a specific part of your app, to give out a promo code or whatever it is you have, deep linked into your app, it just happens instantly without the user even having to think about installing something. Seems like it really reduces friction to getting somebody into your app.
So I put a link in the show note in the chat so that people can watch it. It's a video, so you'll have to watch it later. But it's only about 6 minutes long, and it's exactly that. What Tony just said is that basically Google wants to make it possible for you to deep link into an app without having had the app installed, be able to access some feature of the app, use it like you normally would, and then if you are so inclined, you can install the app from there. So this is really just some amazing stuff. I think they're trying to, sort of webify apps, which I think it's.
I don't know if you watched a lot of the Google I/O videos like I did, but a lot of their presentations were revolving around both, quick app loading and making your app perform better, as well as making web apps perform more like apps. So they really seem to have a big focus on that right now.
And I think that's a good thing because it seems like it's trying to reduce the friction if I have to install the app and, I have to make the decision to install the app and I actually have to install the apps, those are two very separate things, right? I mean, I have to have an incentive, but if I've already used the app, at least even a portion of it, now the friction is reduced, and I feel more inclined to, that was useful. I will get the app. One of the things they said here is that they said that it will be compatible with all the way back to Jelly Bean. So, and it was interesting to see the crowd. Or hear the crowd. You could hear there was like an intake of breath from the whole crowd. Everybody was like, "Oh,"
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Right? Yeah, it was a unified intake of breath. I mean, it was kind of weird. And then, and they said they'll be working with select developers to be rolling out to users, and that essentially what made that possible was that portion of the app was packaged as sort of a module. So I don't think this is something that they can just reach in and sort of just rip the heart out of your app and expose it to the world. I think it's more like if you've set this up, then they can take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the details are on how you get your app to work as an instant app. So that'll be interesting to see when that information comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what they're trying to do, and another, maybe a side benefit, I don't know if there's like their master plan where they sit around and try to figure out how to manipulate the world. I think it's more like, I think one of the side benefits is they want things to be modular. That way they can also just download the pieces of an app that the user needs, and not the whole app. And that may in turn make software easier to update because now you're just updating a portion of your app and not the whole app. I don't know. So interesting bits. And then if you combine that, so that the next piece of news was, and I have a link here for this as well. This was actually just shared with me today. Google Play is adding an early access section to their App Store. So let me put that in the chat. Apparently this is very similar to Steam. Have you guys seen this? It's kind of like...
Yeah, I saw that too. I think, in fact, I've already been on the Play Store, so I think it's already active.
One of the things that they were saying is that it comes down to user experience and because apparently the users are still able to give feedback, which seems a little scary on the part of the developer because you're kind of like, you want feedback, but I don't know if you want public feedback.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if that feedback does end up showing up when you finally release your app, or if it only shows up in that early access part.
Yeah, I would hope that, right. I would hope that it would only show up in the early access part, because you want that interactivity with the user, but it's not a finished product. So
right.
Would you guys use something like that? Would you publish an early to, like, just sort of almost like an open beta program?
I think I probably would, just because I've experienced how tough it is to get beta testers to look at your app, and it seems like that's just another avenue to get that, as long as you're in an open beta sort of situation. But sometimes you have apps where you either get to open beta really late and you already have an audience of users that you want to use, or you just never do an open beta. You just work on something for a specific client.
Anybody else? Nobody?
I probably wouldn't use it. I haven't done anything like that in the past. I typically, most of my stuff is more, it's not too deep in its functionality. So I feel like the testing I do and the few people that I get to test my own apps, with how fast you can iterate in Corona and push it back out, even if you find something after release, it seems, unless you're really going to get something complicated, a pretty complicated game or app, that getting a lot of demo users is, I don't know, just doesn't seem like it would make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me and how I've structured, what I'm doing.
Interesting, because I think of honestly, I thought you would be the perfect candidate for that. Just because it seems like it would give you the ability to iterate and refine and sort of almost A/B test things and push something out to the user, like that they tell you that they want. Because I know you've put out a bunch of apps, and they all sort of have a specific market and those types of things. And I assume that you've probably spent a good bit of time thinking about what things should look like and how they should meet that audience. So I would, again, I thought this would be perfect for you, but I guess maybe you're not open to that.
My concern about it might be that given Google Play's track record with how quickly APKs get pirated, that's just another avenue for a non-polished version of your app or game to get pirated and put out there with your name on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought about that as well. I was like, well, what happens is, and I know a lot of developers are sort of close to their chest, right? They keep their cards close to their chest, and they're like, I don't really want to talk about it just yet. I want to wait till I release it, and that sort of thing. I don't want my ideas stolen or whatnot. Whatever the reasons are. And it seems
I'm thinking of it less in terms of that though, and more in terms of just 6 months down the line, your game is out there, but then there's this other thing that people are Googling, and I suppose the people that would download that are less likely to be customers of yours anyway.
Yeah,
but
even I have problems with, the beta release of some apps that I released. I still see stuff floating around there from the beta release that comes up before my final release stuff. So that's, I think, probably a good concern.
Well, and if the silver lining of Google Play piracy is that, well, at least it gets eyeballs in front of the app, you might be getting eyeballs in front of a version of your app that you'd rather not have eyeballs in front of.
Is that a keyword phrase? Google Play piracy? I'm going to look it up right now. Well, hey, we've got Renee I joining us. Hey, Renee. We can't hear you though. You look great, but we can't hear you. You're on mute. It's down in the left-hand corner. No, still no. Okay. Well, we'll come back to you. We'll see if you can work that out. It's down in the left-hand corner. If you click on it, then you can set your input devices. So
it's a good chance to work on your mime skills.
It is, exactly. Especially with all these little squares that we're in. Well, I agree. I think hopefully Google, in their infinite wisdom, will recognize that they are, in fact, a leader in search, and that somehow they'll keep people's stuff from popping up, their beta stuff from popping up above their actual production releases. It's interesting. I think a lot of developers say they make money on iOS over Android, and then I've seen some developers who just love the Android ecosystem, so it's interesting to see Google making more and more strides into just reducing the friction, getting being able to get the app in the store within a couple of hours, being able to use an app without having to install it, being able to beta test something without having to go through test flight or hockey or I don't know if this will be easier than those platforms, but I think we all agree that beta testing is hard.
I don't know. Did you see any of the talks about the Firebase test lab and how they're moving their cloud lab into the Firebase test lab?
No, I didn't see that. I know they bought Firebase, so they kind of took it off the public market, and then they've come back and they've just re-announced the launching of it. What do they have to say about that?
Well, it was really quite amazing. So there's a post in the forum about it, but basically Firebase gives you for free analytics and some messaging and notification services. But then on top of that, there's a whole bunch of other services. And one of the ones that I found really cool and interesting was the test lab idea, where you upload your APK to either the alpha or beta channel on the Google Play developer console, and then it takes your APK and runs it through some automated tests on, I think they have 12 or 13 different devices right now. And I did this on, I took Build a Poppy-Knot and I threw that up there, and it did it. It actually went through, and I actually found one bug through the process of just getting the app loaded up. So kind of handy for any of us who don't have all those Android devices to be able to run it on a bunch of different things. And then at the end, it has a really nice report where you can go through and see screenshots that were generated as your app was running. And it'll produce the ADB logs, so you can go through and see all of your logging that happened on all those devices. So I found it really good for just getting information about the different devices that were running.
And this is all, you say this is all through their Firebase?
All through just right now the Google Developer Console. It doesn't even say anything much about Firebase yet, but there is like a separate Firebase console that you can go to as well to set up all the analytics and everything.
Okay. Yeah, what you're describing is something there's a similar service called Litmus, which is for like sending out emails, doing analytics and things for emails. And one of the benefits of using that service is that you send a test email before you do your broadcast. You send a test email to that service, and then it runs through and does a whole bunch of checks for you, like checking all the links and seeing what alt tags are on your images, and just kind of doing all the things that you want to double check before you blast out to 300,000 people, and it'll also show you what the email looks like in just a bunch of different browsers, a bunch of different mail clients, and that's there are times when it's it's not that useful because you're like, well, I got all the links right and everything looks good, but for those moments when you're like something is clearly broken, it's hugely beneficial to have it kind of highlighted.
Yeah.
So doing that on a mobile platform would be great.
Well, and then the other thing that I didn't get to try was they have a robocrawler, which I guess if your app has UI accessibility features built in, it will actually crawl through all of the buttons that you have and try to use them. And if it finds any problems, it'll include those in the report.
That just sounds cool.
Yeah.
Robocrawler.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a science fiction movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, it seems like they're making a big push. I mean, they even made an announcement last week or so about including an app store in Chromebook. So if you have a Chromebook device, then they would have the app store kind of as a part of it. And I don't see why they don't just inject the app store right into the Chrome browser.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a app that you could get for Chrome that was called Arc Welder, and it would allow you to run APKs in Chrome. But it was pretty slow, so I'm hoping that they have improved the performance since then.
Wow. Well, yeah, I'm not even talking about running them in Chrome. I was just talking about having, when you're looking at Chrome, you've got those all your favorites and those little, the little buttons of things you can kind of quick links to. Seems like if you next time you open Chrome, if it was just like, hey, here's the App Store right in front of you.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, I'm sure some people would hate it.
Yeah.
And it might muddy, what Chrome is for, but I don't know. Seems like a natural fit. Be able to get that much closer to the consumer.
It seems to me like it would expand and make it more valuable. I mean, and people would maybe it would be, add something to it that it doesn't have.
Yeah, maybe, maybe not make it so much in your face, but just make it another one of those little sliding panels or whatever, right? Where you're just, kind of, maybe introduce you to it, but then give you the option to either keep it up front or push it to the back or whatever. I don't know. I think they're making great strides. I especially with some of the development tools and the APIs, they're definitely making strides on the Android side to make it a better development space. But that's still, we live in the Corona world, so that's still just Android, right? It's not Android and iOS, but since a lot of us like to push out apps to Android, it's good to see them making progress. Renee, did you get that worked out?
No?
Yes.
Yes, I found the button.
You found the button. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, hey, hello, first of all. It's been a while since we've seen you here on the show, but you've been busy.
Yes, I've been. Even with Corona stuff. And I was working a lot on my website, and I wrote some articles and tutorials, and transforming the website to a membership site. Yes, I was writing some quality stuff.
Oh, awesome! Well, I saw that you posted something in the forums about LDoc, and I believe we had a blog. Wasn't there a blog post? You had a blog post on your site.
It's on my Devil Squid website. I wrote 2 articles about LDoc, and yes, I've posted the links on the forum communities.
So I went out and looked at what you had, and I was really impressed with the documentation. It was very clean, and there was a lot of it. So in my personal experience in working with tools that do sort of documentation for you from code, it seems like you kind of get one of 2 things. You either get sort of a skeleton docs that you can kind of reference, to kind of figure out where things are located in your code, or you get this really nice, really nice, full, rich documentation, but you never get the 2 together. So you seem to have everything all in one. Lots of great references and lots of great, rich documentation. So how did you accomplish that?
It's the LDoc system itself, because you have to use a certain syntax in the comments. So your comments and your documentation is very clean by itself, because you have to follow some rules to make it work. And in the end, you only have to press a button to compile the HTML files, and all the links to the different functions and modules are made by LDoc. It's quite easy.
So, but you have a lot of, it seems like you have a lot of explanations of things, and, a lot more than just one line of text or maybe a couple of lines of text. You have some rich documentation there. Where is all that located? Is that in your code?
Maybe I show some examples.
Okay.
Share screen, does it work? Yeah.
There we go.
Can you see this window? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. For example, this part. This is a part of my.
Can you please increase the font size?
Sorry.
Can you please increase the font size?
Yes. Yeah.
I think a Command Plus.
A shortcut. Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
This is enough?
Yes.
It's enough? Okay.
Yes.
So it's about this part, for example. It's a part of my neon effects library, where I have some busy path functionalities, and every LDoc documentation has to begin with at least 3 lines. 3 lines, and LDoc knows, here comes a comment for me I have to pass. And the first thing you do is a description of the function, what the function does. Then you can explain the parameters of the function. the AX and AY, you can see here. And here you can say what type these parameters are. In this case, these are just numbers. And here is the description of the parameter itself. And in the end, you can give an usage as example. With this command, LDoc knows, okay, the lines that follows are example code. And the result, I try. You only see Sublime now, doesn't you?
Correct.
Okay. I try to share my browser now. Okay.
Okay, we see that.
Now see yes, and this should be the results. Busy pass set anchor point. This would be okay. This is yes. This is the result that LDoc creates.
It's amazing.
And yeah, the nice thing is you can even set anchor points to different functions. So this is the constructor function of this module, and I have put an anchor point to the set anchor point function. This is a completely different place in the documentation, and you can even set anchor points to different files. If you have a bigger project with several files, you can link between the files, not only in one module or one documentation.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't know about that.
That is the add C. Let me see if I can show you this. Okay, back to Sublime. Okay, this is, for example, this. Do you see Sublime now?
Yes.
Okay, this is the C document, add C, and you can just enter a function name to link it. And that's it.
If it's in a different module, it figures that out?
If you want in a different module, you can take the module name, like, I don't know if you can see it in the upper, here's a different file. And the module name is neon shapes. And the top of the file, you have to say what's the name of the module. And then you can, in the code, set neon shapes and set a point, or what's the name of this in English? And then the name of the function. But period does work as well. Yeah, that's
colon
it.
is the name of the two dots.
Sorry?
Colon is the name of the two dots.
A colon, of course. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Neat. I started using this to go through some of my Hoppynaut code and document that, and I was having trouble with some rather complex tables, and Renee gave me some help on that, and it really worked out great.
Yes, it's a bit of a problem to create parameter tables, because in these examples you have where do we have one? Single parameters like this, AX and AY, but the problem is when you have parameter tables like this one with the name, this kind of stuff. This is something that LDoc doesn't do well. And I found a workaround by using Markdown to create some more complex code to document these parameter tables. And the result is nearly the same. It's quite the same. like LDoc does.
So you're combining the LDoc format here. You're also combining in what did you just say?
Markdown.
Markdown. Thank you. You're also combining in Markdown within LDoc in order to get the formatting or the documentation that you want.
Yes, when you use LDoc, you can say LDoc. It can use Markdown as well in the documents, in the docs, in the documentation code. So
it can use Markdown, but it doesn't output Markdown, correct? Like it doesn't output an MD file, correct?
No, it does not output Markdown. It converts the Markdown into HTML. Gotcha.
That's a shame. That's what I was looking for. I was thinking like, oh, this would be a great way to make my readmes for my GitHub.
Yeah, and there are two things that are a bit. The installation was a bit problematic because I didn't find any good documentations in the internet about installing the whole system and getting Markdown to run. But this is something I've written down on my website if you're interested.
Okay, yeah, we'll link to that so that everyone can check out your site and get started with it. Ed, I was thinking about you when I was looking at this. I know you've got.
You thinking I need to write better docs than LDocs the way?
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I know you were looking for a simpler, more streamlined solution for.
Yeah, he had me. He had me when I saw the editing, the syntax here, and then I saw the output, and then I was like, and then Renee said, sorry, instead of third person you said, but it has trouble with parameterized tables, and I'm like, oh man, I use those everywhere.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at your Markdown solution here. So I took a screen copy, and I know you've got an article on your website about this too. So
yes, and it's locked for members only.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
One step at a time. It's all good. All right. Yeah.
Are those of us who tweeted out earlier grandfathered in?
Are you calling me a grandfather?
No. I was saying before.
I know I'm not a grandfather.
I remember reading the article before you set a paywall on your site, and my grandfather did.
Sorry, that was for me?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I didn't understand. With the grandfather?
Oh, like it. Sorry, meaning.
I don't think he has a paywall, Jason. I think you just have to.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Oh, then
no,
I think
it's not a paywall. You can you just have to register for free.
Oh, okay. I think I actually did that already. So cool.
Okay, so are there any other items like that we should be aware of? Things that any gotchas?
I don't know. Some developers might to change the visual output of their HTML files, like branding with a logo or complete different layout. You can do this. There's some template files in the LDoc system. You can edit like you want to, and you can also edit some CSS style sheets to change the colors or add a logo or such stuff.
So when you're done, you're just hosting basically HTML files, right? I mean, you're just...
Yes, for the documentation, yes.
Okay. So that seems pretty easy to manage. You know, there's no database to install. There's no system to configure. There's no...
No, initially you have to install LDoc, and LDoc needs some other Lua libraries like Penlight from Steve Donovan. That's the one who has written LDoc, and he uses his own library to to create LDoc, and you need Lua Rocks. That's a packet manager for Lua modules. But again, on my website, you find a detailed description to install all these modules and stuff.
Okay. And when you go to, so your documentation gets updated probably, pretty regularly as you're working on new features and such. What's the update process like? What's the, exporting? What is that like?
Well, generation is of the HTML files is I integrated it into a Sublime command, and I only need to press Command B to create the whole doc system. This is quite nice. And then you have one folder with an index HTML file and some other HTML file and CSS style sheets, and I just have to upload them to my FTP or to Bitbucket or Github or what you're using.
Yeah, it's actually really fast. So it crawls through all your source and finds the comments and does it. I'd say I think my code finishes in about 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's quite fast.
So you mentioned Bitbucket. Can you use this? Can you use this with GitHub?
With GitHub, it's even easier because GitHub can render HTML files directly, which is Bitbucket not capable of, as far as I know. So if you want to really host the file to display them as rendered HTML, GitHub is even easier. But I have hosted some files on Bitbucket too, and I'm using GitHub to render them in HTML. And they have an API to directly render external HTML files. Let's work around.
So you're putting the code on Bitbucket, but then putting the documentation on GitHub.
Yes. Yeah. When I link on my website to the docs, I use a link that's beginning with github.com, and then it's the URL of the Bitbucket repository.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, that's a neat workaround instead of having to use the Markdown.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ed, I think this is sounding more and more like your thing, man.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's on my list we've talked about LDoc several times on this show before, just mentioned it, right? So it's definitely been on my list, but I've avoided it to some extent because, well, everything takes time, right? But Renee has shown us that this looks like there's clearly still a significant effort here. For example, Renee, if you were to scale or scroll down in your code there, it's too bad. The one you showed us originally was it was a great example where the documentation was actually longer than the function. There you go. That one right there.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just, that's the way it is. That's the way life is with regards to documentation.
Yeah, he's showing usage. I mean, the majority of what you're seeing here is the usage. Which
But right. I mean, for documentation to be worthwhile, you almost always have to do a usage statement. Sometimes even more than one.
That's so true, because there's a lot of times when you read through documentation and no matter how well it's written, there's just things that you're like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't understand what they're talking about. I don't, but once
a lot of people don't even read the documentation. They go right to the usage statement and go, okay, that's it. That's all I'm going to look at.
It's so very true. Yeah. Because you're kind of like, the code is almost the too long didn't read. I mean, it's like, I just want to copy paste that. And then if you can't figure some element of it out, then you're like, oh, you'll go back to the specifics, but yeah, you just want to grab it and go.
Documentation is important. And yes, it is a problem that it often takes a lot of space in the code files, and I don't particularly like mixing up code with documentations. So what I would really enjoy is some automatic way that is built into IDE that will show documentation on demand when you point at some function, and it will take documentation from some other folder. So say you have your SRC directory with all the source files, and you have, say, docs directory with all the markdown for each function. And IDE would link these two files for you, documentation and source files, and it'll show the usages and all that sort of stuff. Because this amount of documentation is just too much. It just it blocks your view of your interpretation of the source code.
Well, I believe in miracles too, Rob.
So, Renee, you can collapse those comments, though, right? You could.
Can I? No, not as far as I know.
If you mouse over to the left next to line 347, does it give you a?
I hear.
You thought this code folding here.
Yeah. I wonder if, I hear what Sergey's talking about. I mean, yeah, it'd be great if you could just automatically just fold everything and not have to look at it.
I think the difference is that, or I would agree with Sergey on like a live project where you're working with a client or something, then it gets to be too much because you're trying to, when you're working on a project where the code is like new, you're trying to keep that code in your mind and understand how it works. It's fresh, right? You haven't really, it's not embedded. But like for SSK, this makes a lot more sense because SSK hardly ever changes now, except for like small fixes here and there. And so if I were to embed the documentation in SSK and then generate a nice document, that would definitely, I mean, this makes sense. Because I don't need to sort of like remember how it all works. I kind of remember already. So
there's a function tag, the at symbol and then function. You can supply a name. You can put them in another file. It just won't automatically pick the name up from the function below it. So you could do that.
Now, somebody in the audience help me out here. It's been around for a while. There was another code documentation generation system long time ago for people. It was for the C or C++ language. Doxygen. Yeah, this completely reminds me of Doxygen. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's the same principle.
Well, I appreciate you sharing it with us. So.
Yeah, I like this. I'm inclined to. I mean, I understand what Sergey's saying and what.
And by the way, your code is so beautifully formatted.
Right.
You have to please stop showing it to us.
No.
You must take it away now.
Source code porn.
I notice you do what I do too. I like to, and I'm not patting myself on the back and 2 seconds later, but this is like an anal thing I do. That's how you align all the equal signs.
Yes, I like that.
I can't stand it when I go into code and somebody has made like a big list of variables and they put the equal sign right after the variable, and I'm like, left, right. Just line that up so I can change it all in one place.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I just called you anal on the live show. I called myself the same, so it's equal.
Okay.
That's funny. Yeah, there was I don't know if you guys saw the F8 talks, but there was a developer. He got up on stage and he was talking about how to create bots, Facebook, messenger bots, and he was doing the code example. And every time he would go to his swipe file to copy the code and paste it back in, he had to was lining everything up.
He would align everything.
Yeah, and it only took a couple of seconds to do. But he was like, at some point, he recognized that he was doing it every time, and he apologized to the crowd. He was like, "I'm sorry, I just have to do this, right?" And of course, he's talking to a crowd of developers, so they all laugh because they all have hopefully all have the same
the anal retentive behavior of getting that stuff just right.
Yeah, they all share the same neuroses for sure. So. Well, this is excellent, and what we will do is we're going to link to Devil's Squid and directly to the docs for how to install it, and also the blog post that you had previously on usage and that sort of thing. And if you guys have questions, I definitely recommend that you contact Renee and let him know, because just as you've heard here, he will respond to you and give you pointers and that sort of thing. So Renee's always been good about that, and I love the thoroughness of your blog post too. With images and code and resources, and a lot of work goes into that. So,
oh yes, thank you.
So register for become a member of his community.
Yes, this would be great.
Awesome. Well, you're still screen sharing with us, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
And just so you probably already know this, but you changed something in your code. So, either put it back or don't save.
So in your function about basic curves, I noticed that you have an option to make anti-aliasing for the curve. How do you do that?
The Bezier curves are plotted with circles in this case, and the circles do have a fill, a graphic fill, and it's filled with a dot with a gradient dot. And it's just the simulating of anti-aliasing.
Mm-hmm. So for each rendering, you render a whole lot of circles for each small point.
I found out that the performance on mobile devices is rather bad.
When I was working with Bezier curves, I was using lines to draw them. Lines don't work for you for some reason?
Yes, because I had some problems with lines. Stop share. Yes, now I got it. Sorry. Yes, I had some problems with lines because to create the anti-aliasing effect, I need to again fill the line with an image fill, but at the corners of the lines, they have some graphical glitches. I don't know if it's a bug or if I'm doing something wrong. I had no success with using lines on Bezier curves.
I was using a trick to render the snapshot that was double size of the screen, and then I would shrink the snapshot down to the screen, and that would give at least some anti-aliasing. So you could try that if you want to play with it. But anti-aliasing is hard to do, and I think now the most right way to do it maybe to use shaders or use bitmap direct manipulation to draw it on external texture. So now Corona has API for that.
Yeah, I think shaders might be a way to do this.
Okay, well, cool. You guys are definitely talking way over my head, so I'm gonna move on to monetization plugins. So there have been a lot of them published here lately, and they all some of them overlap. It seems like in features, but then some of them don't, and some of them are doing some interesting things like MediaBricks. I don't know if you guys saw that one, but we just released a MediaBricks plugin for monetization. And I was actually talking with those guys the other day. I was on a call with them, and I asked them, I said, okay, they're really excited about working with Corona, which is cool. And we're excited about working with them. But I always try to educate myself about what the value is to the community for things. And so I said, what's the end user experience like? When developers are talking to me about monetization, like what are their users going to experience? And they said, well, what we do is they do branded, they do branded material, and it's not really about user acquisition. It's about, exposure of a brand. And so they pointed me to their site, and I looked at some of their examples. And one of the examples that they have there, they have a product line called Rally. And the example that it gives is when the user reaches a point, an achievement or whatever in the game, then there was like a Sprint ad that came up, and it was like a high five from Sprint, right? So you're like, hey, you accomplished your goal, high five from Sprint. And then in that, you had your reward that was given, tokens or gems or coins or whatever. And then it went away. So you weren't sending the user off to somebody else's app. You weren't making them watch an ad or anything like that. It was fluid. It was part of part of the game, part of the experience, which got me to thinking about things like interstitial ads, interstitial like video ads, rewarded video ads, all these things that are going on these days. So I was just wondering from the panel here, what do you guys use? What have you seen that you're interested in? And where do you think we should be going in terms of, advertising and player engagement? It's kind of a big bunch of questions all in one.
Don't ask a big question or anything.
Yeah, right.
Right now, I think rewarded videos are the most, or what works the most for developers at this point. But some new ways to engage with users are needed, definitely.
Anybody else got thoughts on that?
Well, I'm using primarily incentivized videos. So does this thing that you're talking about, is it incentivized, or is that more like an interstitial where it kind of did the high five thing?
Incentivized is rewarded when you give something to the user after he or she has watched the ads. Also, I had this idea the other day. What if you take this idea to real world? You make a coffee machine or some vending machine, and instead of paying something to get, I don't know, gum or a cup of coffee, you make the user watch the ads for like 30 seconds. Could that be good enough for publishers, for advertisers? So you get the product for free in real life, but you watch the ads.
Interesting. You get the product for free in real life if you watch the ads.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing I think of there is you'd have to maybe watch, how many ads would you have to watch in order to earn that thing?
Well, one of the things with the advertising is, what does the advertiser get out of this? They're offering you something, and you're going to get something for a free or a discounted price, but hopefully that advertiser in some way has got some value from you. And just watching a video really doesn't provide a whole lot of value. You can use it to build brand recognition, or hopefully, like, a lot of our advertising, after you watch the video for the game or whatever it is, you get an opportunity to install the app. So you can actually gain a customer, you get a conversion from it. Yeah. With TV, I mean, they're kind of set up around that whole idea of, you're going to watch 3 or 4 ads, and the advertiser has a way to see whether that advertising was effective or not, whether their sales go up the next day and things like that. But that's a lot harder to do on the internet. And that would seem really hard to do with a vending machine.
The idea of sending, the idea of struggling to get a user only to show them an ad, to send them to somebody else's app, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Not in my opinion. It's a little bit like on the web when people were putting AdSense on their sites, struggling to get people there, and then hoping they would click on something and go to another site. you're just hoping to arbitrage, hoping to make money, just churning through traffic. But that doesn't give you any really long-term value or connection with the user. So I think, personally, I think advertising is broken at the moment, because just like Sergey said, the developer rewarded video is good for the developer. And Rob said, what value does the advertiser get if people are watching the videos? It seems like the developer wants money, the advertiser wants eyeballs, the consumer wants to unlock the thing. And if I'm hitting a button to watch a rewarded video or whatever, and then looking away for 15 seconds to do something else until the video is over, and then coming back and unlocking my widget, then the developer is getting something out of it. But I think that's about it. I don't think that the consumer or the advertiser are getting their full value. And even the developer, to some degree, is not getting the full long-term value out of that equation. So it seems like things like creating an interactive ad in some portion in your game where the customer has to complete that portion of the game to unlock the thing, but the advertiser gets the full attention during that session. That seems like a more realistic, a more value added interaction than what we have today. I don't know. Does it make sense? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Rob, you look like you got thoughts on it.
No, I'm wanting to segue you somewhere else, so I'm waiting for an opportunity.
Segue away, sir.
Well, I've been playing a game, and they've got rewarded video and interstitials in the game. And so the first time I played, the first level, I got a rewarded video, and it let me double the number of coins I got that level. Well, this is great. Okay, I'll double my coins to watch a video. Then it was like 10 more levels before I got another rewarded video to double my coins again. In the meantime, I got 2 totally useless interstitial ads, and some levels I didn't get anything, which I guess I'm happy that they weren't always every level popping something in front of my face. But it was like, no, give me more rewarded video. I want to double my coins. So something to think about is that, users, if the reward's good enough, they're going to want to click on and take part of that rewarded video.
Yeah. I think from a consumer standpoint, they're definitely getting to unlock their thing. The underlying question, though, is are they getting additional value out of that moment? Right? Are they enjoying it? Are they paying attention? Are they, all those things that the advertiser wants and that ultimately the developer wants? The developer wants them to enjoy the game and to share it with others, and to, can come back and participate again and again and again. And the advertiser wants eyeballs and hopefully conversions to some sort of, long-term sales. But as you were talking there about the frequency of the video, you made me think about Tyler Coleman here in Austin. He did a presentation at our recent meetup, and he did it on procedural gameplay. And procedural gameplay or procedural, generation of objects in a game is just what he was talking about. Was this idea that it used to be back in the day, playing Mario Brothers was sort of a linear, from beginning to end sort of experience, and that along the way you memorized all the different coins and pipes to jump over or to find, and that once you had reached the end, you had completed the game, and the only thing that was left to do was to go back through the game and try to collect all of the objects and to discover all of the hidden pieces and things like that. But the level didn't change, and the user experience was the same pretty much throughout. Everybody knew what to expect. But with procedural gameplay, it's more like his example was if you're playing a zombie game and the player is having a hard time surviving, at some point the developer may say, okay, well, we're going to back off on the zombies. That'll give you time to collect water and food and resources. And then once you've collected those things up, now we know that you're ready to go. So more and more zombies will begin to appear. And so this ebb and flow creates a pattern where one user's experience on level 2 or level 3 or whatever might be different than another user's experience, because one person might be better at the game than another. And so the game makes adjustments based on the user's patterns, user's behavior. So what Rob, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, procedural advertising or procedural, ad delivery, where basically, I'm going to show you an ad, and if you respond to it, then I'm going to show you another one. But if you don't respond to it, then I'm going to wait a couple of turns before I show you another one.
That makes reasonable sense to me. I mean, of course, that's more work on the developer to be able to, try to track behavior and, determine what is and what isn't working, and, steer the person toward what they seem to like. But I think that's a, perfectly valid way to, look at this. I mean, particularly if you want your advertising to be more effective, you want to show the users ads they're interested in. Yeah. I mean, the advertisers and the app or ad networks are trying to figure out that behavior on their own, because they're measuring what's getting clicked on. Hopefully they're refining the ads that you see based on your activity, but there's no reason the developer couldn't step that up to his own.
Right. And I think there's a certain amount of hands-on that has to happen. Like I know we talked earlier about copying, pasting code from documentation, right? We just kind of want to go in and copy paste that code, change the values a little bit, and then move forward, right? We're kind of in this mindset of getting stuff done. But at the same time, I've seen developers who put code in place and then they step back and they look at what's going on, and then they make adjustments based on what's happening. So as an example, just to kind of put some concreteness to that, if I put code on my website to deliver ads, and I'm using Network A, and Network A does pretty good for me, but Network B has an opportunity. So that an advertiser is running a big campaign only during this limited period. I then need to be able to switch over to Network B so that I can capitalize on that. But then when it's all over, I want to switch back to Network A, right? So I think that it's worth the effort and time to be able to build in the flexibility to be able to switch back and forth between networks, to be able to figure out what works best for you, and along those lines to say, what, let's also recognize that me watching the same ad as a consumer, watching the same ad over and over and over and over again is not valuable, right? I would love to see advertisers be more creative in their delivery of their message. So rather than create one high profile, ad where I've paid some star to be part of it, I'd rather you tell me a story. And now you have 6 videos, and those 6 videos are kind of like the old days. You remember the Maxwell House or the Folgers commercials or whatever, right? There was always it was the next piece in the story. So you may see the same ad, over time, but it was always the next piece of that story. And you were following the characters through the story, and that was associated with the brand. So, if I'm a game player and I see video 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and that's told me a story, now I'm much more engaged in your advertisement than I am if I've seen the same, Game of War ad 20 times.
Why does everybody think of that ad?
Because it's been done. It's so overdone. It's like, oh my words. That one, and what's the other one?
Fight for me.
Yeah, what's the other one? This Mobile Strike or whatever the one is with Schwarzenegger. I'm like,
please make it go away.
Please make it go away. So,
but obviously they're working. I mean, They do that for a reason. Because
Are they? Are they though? You think that they're? I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, maybe it's working right now, but at some point, don't you just get saturated? Like, don't you just not want to?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. They will, and then they'll try to change it up a little bit, but they'll try to wait, and they'll try to get the maximum they can out of that ad before they put money into another one.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I hear you. I just wish it was.
I think it also works for the 1% of people that have enough capital to play that game to that extent. And even people with a decent bankroll, I think you have to have a crazy bankroll for that strategy to pay off.
For which strategy? The one where it's
just saturating,
Yeah. I tell you what's going to happen. Here's the thing that's going to happen. Somebody's going to step forward and they're going to do it right. And then that's going to set the bar. And then everybody's going to have to follow suit. That's the way it always happens. People rush into whatever situation it is. They do whatever they can get away with. That works for a while until somebody recognizes and says, hey, this really kind of stinks. And then they go to the extra effort to do it differently, and then that becomes the new standard, and now everybody has to follow the new standard.
One of the ad providers, I think that Corona has, I don't remember if it was Commercial Break or which one now, actually had where you could play part of the game as the ad. So the ad would come up and it would say, click something, like click here, and then you would actually go through the steps of playing this game that they were advertising for. I thought that was pretty interesting because now it's more interactive. And maybe that makes it more engaging. I don't know.
I think it makes more sense. It's a mini game, but it's, it requires some level of interaction, and it doesn't have to be hugely complicated. Just some level of action that the user can complete that ensures that they are actually paying attention. And make it fun for them. Don't just make it, you got to click this button.
Yeah.
And everybody wins.
I was thinking, going back to what we were talking about earlier with instant apps, if you can serve up an instant app as part of an ad and actually have somebody get to play around with it for a little while, and then, when they're done, they click the close button and go back to their game. That could be a way of getting your foothold on that person's device, getting your app on there, and then maybe more interaction later on.
Oh, wow. Tony just totally wrapped up the whole show right there. He brought it all right back around. So, so I don't think we can do any better than that. So I think we'll call it a day. Yeah, what?
Cut.
That's right.
Oh, sorry. Cut.
That's right.
That's a wrap.
We'll call it a day. So I'm going to encourage everybody to check out the show links one more time. You want to check out for Devil's Squid, the links to install LDoc, and also the link to use LDoc and get that beautiful documentation, just like Rene has on his library there. So you guys, thanks for joining us. We will be back here in 2 weeks to talk all about Corona SDK and mobile app development. Until then, have a good time, and happy coding.